Hey guys, 1110 here, and this is my first Diablo 4 video, and a disclaimer right away. We're looking at a LeapQuake build that is not meta. It's probably not going to erase endgame content, but it's a lot of fun to play, and I just wanted to show it off. I played a Whirlwind Barbarian to 90, and just wanted to try something different. So right now this build is at level 75, clearing Nightmare Dungeons 30. I don't know if I'll push all the way to 90 or higher, simply because Season 1 starts in a few days. So if I can get higher on it, I will. Yeah, there's a couple of other builds out there online about LeapQuake. I haven't seen anything that's exactly like this. Again, it's not a meta build. I'm just having a lot of fun with it. So let's dive right into it. So I'll put a link to the build planner in the description, but and I'll try and get some gameplay up in the background here as well. But going over it real quick, the base premise is to use Leap, Ground Stomp, and Kick as a cycle to keep resetting your leap cooldown using this aspect here, perpetual stomping. So enemies damaged by kick or ground stomp resets leaps cooldown. I chose to go with Iron Maelstrom Ultimate, Frenzy as basic, and Death Blow as my right click. I do not use a core skill, I do not use any shouts, there are no fortify mechanics in this build. So there's yeah, and there's very little unstoppable in this build as well. So that is a potential weakness that I'm working on. There are some very easy and obvious solutions such as Iron Skin, grants unstoppable aspect. I haven't tried that yet. I wanted to see how far I can go with this particular gameplay, but there are some options. But looking at our aspects here, we've got of the Protector, damaging an elite gives you a barrier. We've got Weapon Mastery, skills of an extra charge. That's for my Death Blow. We got Weapon Master's aspect there. We have our gloves, and these are terrible gloves, by the way, so I know they need upgrading. But Becoming Injured gives you Unstoppable. Becoming Injured while crowd control gives you Unstoppable. I'm looking for a better roll on this. 20 seconds is the perfect one. We got our pants. I've got a crappy lowest level imprint for the 0.25 armor per damage taken. I need to upgrade that. I'll do that later today. I have a perfect roll in my stash. We already looked at the boots of eluding. The aspect on our two-handed mace, ground stomp, causes an earthquake. Well, in that particular earthquake, I deal 30% increased damage. I got a max roll on that. Looking at our amulet, we're using Volcathos. Leap creates an earthquake. For this particular earthquake, you gain damage reduction. I got a 21% roll on that. The actual damage on this particular imprint is pretty low. I'm trying to find a better one. Haven't been able to find one yet. We got our ring here of giant strides. This is not a codex aspect, so I only actually found one in my playthrough, all the way through from 1 to 90 on my barb and 1 to 75 on my second barbarian. I only found this once, and I imprinted it from a lower level ring. So this is pretty rare in my experience. I don't know if it's just bad luck, but this is pretty much an essential aspect to have for the build. Edgemaster, skills deal up to X damage based on your primary resource. This is something I'll talk about in a second, but it's hugely beneficial for this build. And we have, after spending 100 Fury, Weapon Mastery, skills deal up to 200% increased damage. I chose to put that on a two-hander. And on our one-handers, we have deal X increased damage while you have a barrier active. And Brawlers, enemies damaged by kick or charge explode if killed within 2 seconds. So yeah, going over our skills and the synergies here, we have Death Blow that doesn't use Fury, but it will deal X more damage based on your current Fury level. So if you're max Fury, it'll deal, this will synergize with Edgemaster. It also synergizes with the spending Fury, because you're going to spend Fury on Kick. So even though you don't have a typical core spender, Kick will spend all of your Fury once you use it, because of the way we spec'd into it. So that's how they link up. So yeah, you basically leap in, ground stomp or kick to reset the leap, leap again, ground stomp or leap to kick again, and reset and reset and reset. We have some nice synergies here with our skill tree. I had to go 4 out of 5 on Frenzy because I'm skipping all of the core skills. I don't even use any, I don't even use this or this because we don't use core. So these are basically pointless. I don't use two-handed basic weapons. So we use the Combat Frenzy. The choice here is because we don't have Fortify. So the option was to try and mitigate some of that damage by taking Combat Frenzy. Um, you could switch into the Berserking one pretty easily, but that's where I've gone. Ground Stomp is maxed out and increased duration, and I chose to reduce my cooldown on my ultimate because I like spamming my ultimate, but you can generate fury with it, optional. I chose max life and damage reduction again because there's no fortify and no unstoppable. We want as much damage reduction passive as possible. Kick, I went into enhanced and power kick, so this will spend all your fury, and this also double dips into the Edge Master. So kick deals more damage based on how much fury you had when you spent it, and then it double dips into the Edge Masters, which takes more damage per the amount of fury you had when you used the skill. I took movement speed and quick impulses again, reducing the duration of control of CC because we don't have unstoppable. That's why I'm taking this. We got max leap with gaining fury, which helps generate fury for our kicks, and max out our fury for our death blow damage. We took damage reduction while berserking because we pretty much always berserk. I'll show you that in a moment. And then this is part of it. So when brawling skills damage at least one enemy, gain berserking for 3 seconds. So when you leap in, you gain berserking. You're going to ground stomp and potentially leap again within the next 2 seconds. So you keep your berserking, refresh the stack. When you kick, you refresh the stack. You have 2 charges of kick. So if cooldown is on ground stomp or leap is not back, you can kick a second time. And that kind of connects into our death blow, which I also spec into berserking for 3 seconds. So leap, damage an enemy, get berserking for 3 seconds. You're either going to ground stomp and reset leap to do it again, or you're going to death blow depending if your fury's maxed, and you keep your berserking up. I went into pit fighter for damage to close and reduce damage from distant, and I chose Iron Maelstrom, which does weapon swaps, which is a big part of our Paragon board, which you'll see in a moment. So yeah, there's a lot of synergy there. You want to use your death blow when you're on max fury, and then use your kick if you can. If your death blow's off cooldown, just use your kick. It does the massive explosion when they die. So it's a really fun build to play. And like I said, again, there should be some footage in the background here showing you how that works in practice. Looking at our Paragon, I just maxed out my 2 of my glyphs. So we went with first board here is exploit, which is a basic glyph that everybody wants to use. Once you hit something, it becomes vulnerable. Then we went up to the decimator board with might for 8% increased damage while using two-handed weapons. Most of our damage comes from death blow, which I'm using my two-handed slashing, leap, which I'm using my two-handed bludgeoning, and neither ground stomp or kick actually use weapons. So yeah, so you're getting all of your damage from two-handers. We went with brawl on our third board. You need this level 15 to be able to really activate it. So yeah, that's something to be aware of. We got our brawling skills deal 18x damage. And we went into, sorry, that's the Warbringer board. We went into the Carnage board for our next one, which is Mortal Draw. So swapping weapons has an 18% chance to cause crit. So you leap in with one weapon and you switch your weapon to Death Blow or Frenzy for one tick. And then when you leap back in again, it's another chance to crit, and it kind of cycles. So if you finish your last pack with a Death Blow, your next leap has an 18% increased chance to crit once you swap the weapon before you do a second Death Blow. So it all kind of synergizes. And then the last one here is the Weapons Master board, and I went with Ire. So while berserking, take 10% reduced damage from elites and do extra damage. So, like I mentioned before, we're pretty much doing berserking all the time. I do have a full board in the description, so I still have some points to earn here. Like I said, I'm only level 75, but that's the basic overview of the build. We don't need to worry about certain stats. We don't need to worry about core damage. We don't need to worry about fortify generation. We do want to be looking at plus ranks to our skills. For example, I got +4 death blow here. You always want cooldown reduction. That's a huge thing. I managed to get almost 15% cooldown on my helmet, and I have 8% cooldown on my amulet. So I've got quite a lot of cooldown reduction there. Um, Max life, armor, all the usuals. This gear does need upgrading. It's not ideal. But yeah, this build is a lot of fun. Like I said, the one weakness it does have is unstoppable. Cold enchanted and freezing winds particularly are a problem. So I try and just kite around those. Um, but I think they're a problem for a lot of classes. I kind of got it easy mode with Whirlwind Barbarian because it's permanent, pretty much permanent unstoppable on that. So yeah, I got a kind of a rude awakening after playing Barbarian without permanent unstoppable. I haven't really played any other classes. I did Necromancer to level 25 in one of the betas, um, but I never got to Nightmare Dungeons, so I didn't really realize how much unstoppable was needed. So yeah, that's pretty much the build. One other thing is our weapon expertise. So currently I'm using a two-handed axe. I would prefer to be using a two-handed sword. The reason for that was I'd want the bleeding. Bleeding can enable some other board, Paragon board points, and it can enable some other aspects. But for now, I'm choosing two-handed sword as my selected rank so that I get that bleeding. Otherwise, I would use two-handed axe for increased damage to vulnerable. So, yeah, you want to make sure that you're using a weapon technique that is not one of the weapons you're using. So, if you're using an axe, switch it to two-handed. If you're using a bludgeoning, switch it around. Yeah, another small point about the weapon swap. Iron Maelstrom does use all three weapons, and I forgot to mention we have Walking Arsenal here. So that was a pretty big omission. Apologies for that. So Walking Arsenal is, you know, if you want to tackle the unstoppable situation, you could switch to Wrath of the Berserker plus Unconstrained. That gives you an additional unstoppable proc on top of the eluding gauntlets. So, there's options there. And a lot of this is, like I said, just personal preference. I kind of like the the gameplay of Frenzy, even though it's a build and it's a skill that needs a lot of help. It's not a lot of damage. So yeah, the weapon swap, so you get your Walking Arsenal going. Um, yeah, I've probably missed a couple things. That's the general overview. I'm going to work on this and work on my content for Diablo 4 as well. Hopefully, the more videos I do, the better I get at it. But yeah, hopefully someone enjoys this build or has a good time with it. I know I am. And thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys again soon.